Welcome, everyone. My name is Corinne, and I will be your moderator this evening. I am excited to welcome Jeff Grogan, Fast Track Advisor with Henry Schein, as our speaker tonight. Jeff will be sharing a comparative review of the two leading chairside mills available from Dentsply Sirona and PlanMill. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to go over some housekeeping. If you have a question, please type it in the box labeled Have a Question on your console, and we will work with Jeff to get those answered. Additionally, at any point throughout the webinar, if you would like to schedule a personalized demo or request a quote, you can do so by clicking on the Request a Quote box on your screen. And lastly, Henry Schein is not offering CE credit for viewing or attending this presentation live or on demand. Jeff, welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight. I will pass it on over to you now.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Glad to be back with you. Hopefully you guys had a chance to check out part 1 and 2 from our comparative series. I had the pleasure of speaking to you about 3D printers. Hopefully you got to hear from my colleague and friend, Tyler Wallner, when he kind of discussed scanners. Tonight, we're going to dive into CADCAM and look at milling workflows and everything that goes into that and kind of compare the two relative systems on the market. So a little bit closer peek of what we're going to get into tonight. I'm going to get through the housekeeping stuff. So we'll go through introductory topics. I'm going to get into a little bit about the overarching digital workflows. We will dive into a comparative review of the two relative systems on the market. I'm going to kind of wrap up with some tricks and tips and things that might help you get into CAD/CAM a little bit easier. And then lastly, we'll finish with some questions. So first, a little bit about me. If you didn't catch the previous webinar, I have been in this space for about 8 years. Started actually in specifically scanners and mills and was able to kind of cut my teeth in those two arenas. But then gradually worked through 3D printing, cone beam, everything else to where now I've kind of become an expert in all things digital workflow. That's my family right there. By the time you all see this, hopefully I will be holding our new baby girl. So yes, I am coming to you recorded this evening rather than live, but say a little prayer for the Grogan family because I am used to boys. I am not used to girls. So hopefully mama and baby are good, but that's why I am coming to you recorded. Big topic, CAD/CAM. When you get into that topic, it really covers every part of the digital workflow. So we are going to touch on a lot. I am going to walk through pretty thoroughly of these products, but we're not going to get to everything. So just kind of keep that in mind. Save your questions, ask your questions. We'll get them answered. There are no silver bullets. So there are two great systems really to choose from. But I can't just say this is it for you and that works for everybody. So explore your own needs and then pick the right solution based on those needs. And lastly, and I gave this disclaimer the first time around, all of the information you're going to hear is based on my experiences. So I have been in this space for a while. I have been very, very vested in the digital workflows and all the different products, but they are still my experiences, still my opinions. So though I'm giving them and sharing them with you this evening, just kind of keep that in mind that this is based on me. So on with the evening. I think the best place to start is why. If you heard the 3D printing webinar, we did talk about the future, and some of that future is 3D printing crowns. But why CAD/CAM? Why would you do milling today? Well, quite frankly, because it's still the only thing we have. If you're wanting to mill crowns, 3D printing is not there yet. It's also the best way to keep control. And when we start talking about control, we're really talking about control over form, fit, and function, control over workflow. So how are you actually going to implement this in your practice and control a start to finish process? Control over your patient's experience. So how do they feel about it? Most people don't want to come back to the office for a second appointment. Most people don't want to wear a temporary, have to worry about that falling off. So being able to control their experience and how important that has become in the world today. And lastly, and of course, controlling your costs. There's very few pieces of technology that you buy, in dental especially, that allow you to control costs, that make you money. So really that's cone beam, because you're growing your business, you're growing the revenue that's coming into the practice because you're finding more dentistry, and CADCAM because you are suppressing cost. So CADCAM allows you to control those costs and ultimately reduce cost. And so as we get into the overarching digital workflow, I put this graphic up last time. This is really what we're talking about. This touches every part of the process. So from practice management on the front end and keeping those patient records, really as you get into acquisition, you're talking about 3D imaging and digital impression. So that's really that first step is looking at how are we acquiring data. As we move through the rest of the digital workflow, that data has to get manipulated some way, shape, or form. So that's the CAD process. And so that's going to get designed. Something is going to get designed. And ultimately, something is going to get manufactured, which delivers to the patient. When we look at what we call CAD-CAM dentistry, milling, in office milling, here's the three parts that we need to break down: scanning, design work, milling. Now, that really breaks down what we talk about when we talk about single visit dentistry. And so as we get into now the comparative review of CAD-CAM systems, there's lots of mills, there's lots of scanners. There's really only two relevant full CAD-CAM systems, and that's the PlanMill Fit system and the CEREC Prime system. So those are going to be the two that we look at tonight. I did kind of sit back and think a little bit about what's the information that would be pertinent. What should you see? What should you experience through the rest of this webinar? So I kind of broke it down just like so. I wanted to talk a little bit about the companies themselves, a little bit about the individual products themselves. So the scanners, the mills, the design software, the ovens. I wanted to show you what this will look and feel like. So I am going to take a break and go over to software and actually scan, type it on, and design a crown. So you see some of the basic tools actually at work. We're going to go through materials and what they actually have. We're going to cover unique features or kind of what makes that product stand out. And then I'm going to give kind of my review of it all. And so everything from install, training, support, all the way through ease of use and kind of the best positioning for that product. There is always a right tool for the job. So lots of hammers in the world. I use this analogy a lot whenever I'm speaking with doctors on webinars. There's lots of hammers out there in the world. You got to find the one for the job you're doing. So as you think about CAD-CAM and as you think about what are the things that are important to you, it might be, what are you actually wanting to mill? Is that a material selection? Is that an actual indication selection? So are you going to do full coverage crowns? Are you going to do inlays, onlays? Are you going to get into veneers or bridge work? How are you going to be using this equipment? So based on the indications, that may persuade you one way or another. What materials do you want? So as you get into those different indications, what do you actually want to make them out of? How quickly do you need those things? So is this going to be, are you trying to squeeze this down to a 60-minute appointment? Do you have time where you can look at a 2-hour or longer appointment? Are you going to bring the patient back by choice and get into more aesthetic work? These are all choices that you have, but different machines do different things. And so speed may be a consideration. Budget. There's two very different price points from the two machines we're going to talk about. What does your budget allow and what is more important to you? And so as you put those on a scale and weigh that out, that may be a consideration. And ultimately workflow. How is this going to look, feel, and flow in your practice? How is your team going to use it? What's their response going to be? What's your patient's flow going to be? So these are all kind of considerations when you start to think about choosing the right hammer for the job, choosing the right tool for the job. So the first one that we're going to get into is going to be the PlanMill product. So this is the PlanMill Fit system, and it's broken down of the PlanMill Emerald S, what is known as PlanCAD, that's the design software, the PlanMill 35, and ultimately you're going to get a choice of an oven. Historically, Ivoclar has been partnered and paired with PlanMill, so they have the CS6. We also have another good alternative oven with the Shenpaz Centra CS. Both of those open ovens, and they both do a dual centering or ceramic. process. So whether you're going to do a lithium disilicate, like an EMAX, or get into zirconia, where you need to go through a sintering process, both of those ovens are going to give you options to do so. I'm going to take a break real quick, and I'm going to flop over to my design software and show you a little bit about the workflow, the scanning and design process for PlanMill. Okay, so here we are in the PlanMill software. As I have mentioned, you will be starting in Romexis. Here is my patient data. So if I wanted to create a new case, scan and design, that's going to launch my virtual lab script. And now it's just all about indicating what you're actually working on. So I am going to be doing a crown. I am going to be scanning. I am working on tooth 14 on this typodont. PlanMill is going to draw from a tooth library, and it's going to use an autogenesis feature. And that's going to look at cusp height, cusp alignment, marginal ridges. It's going to take all of the different components of a crown and take a library to blend that into and to give it characteristics that belong in that mouth. So I'll choose library A. Here, of course, are all of my material libraries. So let's do this one out of EMAX, a medium translucency, and we'll do this one out of an A2. That's going to move me over to the scan screen. And I am ready to scan my upper. And you'll see the PlanMill scanner is a very good scanner. It's very fast. It's very responsive. I apologize for any annoying sounds in the background, but that is the audible cue to let you know that you are actively scanning. You can see me filling in all of the data that's necessary. The scanner itself does a great job of being able to be controlled in the mouth, so making rotations and movements that would be realistic to actually capture all of my interproximal data. And when I get the information I need, we'll move on to the lower arch. So lower arch, of course, is the opposing. For anybody new to digital impressioning, I do need my upper. I will capture the lower. That's going to help align the bite in the mouth. So when this is ready, I'll start scanning here as well. So I really need the occlusal surface. Might as well get the lingual while we're here. And really, I also need the buccal surface is the important one. That's what's going to help us align the bite in the mouth. And when I have that information, I can move on to actually aligning that bite. So we'll let this model generate, and then we'll be ready to actually align the two scans that I just took. You should hear an audible cue when they are aligned. So there's my alignment. You can kind of see overall, PlanMill has a very nice scanner, very quick, very fast, very easy to use. As we move through the next phase of design, first step is to set path of insertion. I want to know that I am looking down on this as I should be. And when I have that path of insertion set, I will click my orientation button. And now I'm ready also to mark a margin. So I have a couple different ways to do it. I personally like the trace feature. I can turn color on or off. And you start to go around and identify where that margin belongs. Now, we are in the no judging zone here. So if I mismark a margin, snicker under your breath, but keep it to yourselves. As I work through, continue to identify where that margin belongs. And we will move forward. So there is my marked margin. Again, I can look at it in this stone model look. I can look at it in color to verify. But my model is now, my margin is now marked, and we're going to move on to the plan phase. This is really just pre-planning the space, the size, the rotation of that crown. So I think the only thing I want to do here is just make this a little bit bigger to fit that space. And that kind of gives me my initial proposal for how big I want this restoration. Now, when I move to design, I already kind of told you a little bit about autogenesis. So here it is. That's going to take into account several of the properties of the crown. And when I apply that autogenesis, you'll see the tooth wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And that gives me my initial proposal of which I'm working with. Now, I have always loved PlanMeca's tools. I've always found them incredibly easy to use. The visualization, very nice. And so as I start to work through this, if I wanted to twist, pull, move, as I look at the height of this, if I wanted to lower it at all, I can start to drop universally different parts of that. I can use a couple of the tools that they have, rubber tooth or move features, where I can actually select and move individual features of that crown. Makes it very easy to do rapid edits. So if I wanted to do anything like this, I can actually pull and create now the crown that I want. The tools are easy to use. The proposal in the beginning, it gets you a good baseline to be able to move through this design quickly and efficiently. So ultimately, it can be sent over to your mill for milling. So let's jump back in and talk about PlanMeca materials. So several groupings of materials. So you can see on the screen there, you got GC America, Straumann, Vita, Voco. The main driver of PlanMeca is going to be the Ivoclar products. So largely driven by Emax and Emax Zircad, which is their zirconia product. That's largely where you're going to find their materials to be. So pretty big library of materials that are commonly used. When we get into what makes PlanMeca great, what makes that product stand out, it is hard to ignore the first little picture I have there, Romexis. That is a very well-designed open source kind of a data collection, right? So that is the hub that drives it all. So whether you're using their imaging or their digital impressioning into 2D imaging, all of that is going to reside in Romexis, and that gives it a lot of power. As the saying goes, all roads lead to Rome. In this case, all roads lead to Romexis, because everything is going to be in the same spot and allow you to navigate different workflows from within that platform itself. So that's the strength and the backbone of the PlanMeca product is going to be Romexis. Their support has historically been wonderful. So SOS, or support on site, is PlanMeca's support mechanism. Not only is it technical, but it's clinical. And that's been huge as you go through, especially the early adoption of CADCAM, is having somebody to call and say, hey, my machine's having problems, and they diagnose and help treat. Or, hey, help me design this crown. Hey, this is a really tough one. Help me out here. And to be able to have that comfort of somebody on the other end being able to guide you through that process. So their SOS support has been amazing all the way through. That's another really big strength of the PlanMeca product. They have 3 different tips. So PlanMeca has their standard tip with their standard field of view. But we do get into cases, especially as you get into smaller mouths or folks that can't open as much. They do have a slimline tip. That's going to shrink the field of view a little bit, but it's going to make it easier to reach those hard to reach places. They also did come out with their curiosity tip. So that's going to make it more into like a Cari view or a caries detection device, where now you're able to look through the tooth, see cracks, see lesions, see anything that was there, more from a caries detection standpoint. So it's kind of an added feature to their scanner. A little bit about PlanMeca's mills. I have always loved PlanMeca's mills. They've always had very strong mills. And one of the drivers of those is the automation. So within the mill itself, they actually have an automated tool changer. So you load it up with all the burrs that's needed. And then as you work through burrs, as burrs break, they do, that automated tool changer will automatically go fetch and replace burrs. So that way you don't have to put your hands in there. You don't have to babysit it. It's all automatic. So the AI and the automation in some of the PlanMeca mill is really strong, especially for a little bit more of a seamless workflow. And then lastly, we talked about, Romexis. I spent a couple minutes talking about Romexis and the open nature of that platform where I can bring anything in. PlanMeca has gone out, and I'm speaking to anybody out there that has a scanner but not yet a mill. If you have a third-party mill, PlanMeca's gone out and created an application either through their software, so being able to bring in an STL file from a third-party system and bring it into Romexis in their design software, or if you already have design software, what is called send to mill. You can still utilize everything that's great about the PlanMill mill, even if you had third party on the front end, because I can bring in that information in the open architecture of it. I can go right through that CAD/CAM process into their mills. So that open nature is a very, very nice thing to have, especially, again, speaking to you with all of those with a scanner existing out there today. Easy entry point into the CAD/CAM world by using the back end of the PlanMill system. Kind of an overall review. You're going to find this to be pretty standard. CAD/CAM systems, a little bit more complex. So you are going to have a professional install. You will have a service tech come out. They will set up all the equipment and make sure it is connected and working appropriately. Big note, because of that automated tool changer in the PlanMill 35, it does have a compressor requirement. That is an air-driven system. So make sure your compressor is capable of handling that. When you get to training, they are going to do training in classroom. You're going to spend a couple of days learning how to scan, learning how to design, learning how to go through the milling and the finishing process. And then you're also going to have some hands-on integration. So not only are you going to do the classroom where you learn it all, it's going to go to real-world application with patients in the chair, and you're going to have an integration day on top of that. Talked a little bit about support earlier. PlanMill has always had excellent support. So they do have that SOS, which is great. They do have regional field reps, which are great. So a well-supported product all the way through. When you go look at the ease of use of the system in general, the Emerald S, very good scanner. The PlanMill design software, PlanCAD design software, my opinion, and I've done, like I said, been doing this about 8 years, love the tools the most. I think the tools are fabulous. I think they're easy to use. I like how they are visualized on the screen. So once you get past that initial proposal, which is good, you'll use a program called Autogenesis. Once you get past the initial proposal, those tools, very, very easy to use. Your staff will find it very easy to use as well. And then, of course, the mill, that's always been a lot of the strength of PlanMill, a great milling unit with the automated tool changer. So as you look at that entire process, very excellent across the board. Speed. So I know that matters a lot to a lot of people. When you look at a single unit crown, and again, there's going to be some variance. If you pop it in to your mill, it may show a different time. A lot of that has to do with how you design the restoration, the block you're putting it in. There's a lot of different variables that go into that. Generically, if you're looking to do a zirconia crown out of the PlanMill 35, you're looking about 13 to 15 minutes. And if you're going to do Emax, which is actually going to be that wet milling milling process, you're looking about 13 to 15. So either way, you're going to be able to get through a quick, efficient workflow. You're anywhere from 11 to 15 minutes, roughly. As you look at the platform, that's, again, been the strength and kind of a recurring theme here with PlanMill, open nature of the platform that allows for a lot of integration of other products. And as you look at materials, again, largely the backbone is going to be driven by Ivoclar, but a whole variety of materials behind the scenes as well. So as you look at PlanMill and as you look at the pricing of that system, it's going to be a very affordable package. So you're looking total somewhere around the $100,000 mark. That's the scanner, the software, the mill, the oven, and that's going to be the leading value proposition is a very affordable CAD/CAM system that does a great job, gives a great restoration. So if you're looking for a lower cost of ownership or if you're looking for open architecture, those are the two main drivers of why PlanMill may be the right thing for you. It's going to be affordable, it's going to be well supported, and it's going to be very versatile in a lot of ways. So that about wraps up PlanMill. And so as we look at the other system on the market, that's going to put us into the Dentsply Sirona CEREC Prime system. Sirona has long been kind of the founder of CADCAM, if you will. I think they're 30 plus years now into the CADCAM space. The products on market today, CEREC PrimeScan, the CEREC 5 design software, I think it's 5.2 now, if I'm not mistaken, the CEREC Primemill, and then the SpeedFire oven. That kind of makes up what we call the CEREC Prime system. That's all the current things on the market. There's a lot of current users out there. There's a lot of people with OmniCams, with maybe some Blue Cams still out there, with MCXL mills, with MCX mills. This is the latest generation on the market. Okay, so let's dive into their scanner, their software. Okay, so here we are in the CEREC software. This is what you'll be greeted with when you start the software itself. And I can either show my existing patients or I can add a new patient. So if I go look at my list that I have here, this is just one that I randomly created. Down here at the bottom, you'll see that I can add a case. And when I launch into my virtual lab script, I think the first call out that I want to give is what you see over here to the left of the screen, this biogeneric individual. So one of the powers of the CEREC software is going to be based on that biogeneric property. The more teeth you scan, it's going to look at those teeth and give you that initial proposal based on those teeth. So it's going to look like it belongs there. So I want to use that biogeneric property. I'm going to go through and choose my material. So we already kind of talked about that huge list of materials available. So if I'll go find a Sirona material that I want to use, so let's just go through and do a zirconia. And I will select my tooth. So here we can see our case details over on the right. And as I move to acquisition, you're going to see that my scanner will turn on and I'm on the upper arch. The CEREC PrimeScan itself is an excellent scanner, one of the best two on the market. It is fast, it is accurate, it has a huge field of view. It is very easy to use. I will go through and just scan and get all of my information. When I'm done, I can move right to the lower arch. And scan my opposing. And lastly, I'll finish up with the buccal bite, just putting the two together and articulating those in space. When I am done with that, I can move on through the design process. What's happening right here is it is modeling and finalizing those scans. And after it does that, it's also going to set the path of orientation, the path of insertion. And it's also going to go ahead and mark a margin field. That is an automated tool in the Sirona software, in the CEREC 5 software. And you're going to see that here in just a second. Let this finish modeling, almost there. And then you'll see it change from modeling to setting the path of insertion. So here's setting model axis, drawing the margin, and then I am going to be presented with that initial margin proposal. If I want to change it, I can. It usually does a very, very nice job of marking it. So you can see here is the margin that has been marked. There might be a couple spots that I want to tweak. If I do, I can just double click and make any of those edits that I want. No judgment today. This is a judgment-free zone, but I am going to leave this largely the way it is so that I can get through the rest of the evening. But you can see it does a pretty nice job of auto marking those margins. And when I am ready, I'm going to move to design. So by moving to the design phase, this is where those biogeneric properties kick in. It is going to give me a proposal that has that built-in form, fit, and function. It looks like the other teeth. It functions in space with occlusion and contacts. It looks nice. I don't have to do much to get this proposal to the mill. Now, if I chose to, I do have all of the tools that I need to do that. So I can move, I can twist, I can pull, I can move 2-directionally, 4-directionally. I can recalculate. I have all of the different tools necessary to change this tooth. But the important part is based on those biogeneric properties, I don't have to use them. Okay, let's jump back into the presentation. Okay, so jumping into the material portfolio. First thing you probably noticed, there's a lot of them. Not only do you have the libraries of Ivoclar, but you do get into some other very popular brands that have risen on the market. So that Katana block is a very beautiful restoration, very good zirconia product. Backbone here is going to be Dentsply Sirona. So they do have their own line of blocks, the Celtra Duo, CEREC Sirona, and then there's zirconia products. That's a lot of what you will see milled out of their mills, again, along with Ivoclar and that Katana block. They have a very versatile portfolio. One call out, if you look in that bottom right-hand corner, not quite here yet, but it is a titanium-ready mill. So eventually, you will be able to be opportunity to mill titanium blanks and go through the abutment workflow, which you'll hear a little bit more about in a second. So what makes CEREC great? It is a long-lasting product on the market. It has been around for a long time. Because of that, there is an ecosystem now that is incredibly present with Sirona. So now through DS Core, which is their kind of data warehousing, for lack of a better term, all of those things flow through DS Core and interconnect all of your Sirona product. They're the only company right now that has every step of the imaging and manufacturing process. So CEREC Prime Scan, and then their whole line of cone beam units. They have all the imaging up front. They have all the software. So not only through the optimized workflows of CADCAM, not only through Sidexis and some of the CCAT workflows, but now CEREC InLab that comes with the Prime Print. And so they have milling units, they have printing units, they have software to package it all together. And again, that's all going to be warehoused through DS Core. So if integration is a big thing to you, if having everything in one spot's a big thing for you, the CEREC Prime system is going to be marquee. Their mill. So when they came out with the CEREC Primemill, a couple of advanced features that came with it. First of all, burrs. So they do have now a burr that is a 0.5 millimeter, 0.5 millimeters. So the precision and the accuracy of that is very, very strong. That's going to give you a well-defined restoration. So it's going to look very, very nice because the burr size shrank down significantly and is able to cut just a little bit cleaner than what it used to. And then speed. We spoke about the speed coming off of PlanMill. The CEREC system is able to utilize a parallel milling strategy where I'm able to attack that crown from both sides. And so you will see that there is a significant speed increase out of the Primemill, where both of those birds are able to cut at the same time and really drop that speed down. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then what else makes CEREC great? Their implant workflow. So they can actually go through and open up new indications. So not only do you have your inlays, your onlays, your crowns, your bridges, your veneers, all of that standard restorative workflow, but you can now get into designing not only implant crowns, but the abutment that travels underneath it. So through their workflow, you can get the little scan post for the CEREC system to recognize where the implant is and actually go through and design, and you can see there on the screen, design a implant crown and design the abutment that goes underneath it. So that's going to give you an opportunity really to start to increase what you do with this machine. The more you use it, the more you're suppressing cost. That is a really, really good way to start to control a lot of those costs. And then you heard me say it a second ago, and the slide here with CDocs and the clinical accelerators is really representative of the community and the continuing ed surrounding the Sirona product, the CEREC product. They've been in the market for a long, long time, and they have done a great job of putting like-minded dentists together. So CDocs is a wealth of information. The clinical accelerators through Dentsply Sirona made to continue your learning process into the digital world of digital dentistry. And then, if you throw a stone, you're going to hit 10 doctors that are in this system. And so there's a lot of community that is built around this product as well. Okay, final overview of Sirona. Again, professional install. You're going to have that pretty much across the board with CADCAM. There is no air compressor requirement here, but it also does not have that tool changer. So just kind of keep that in mind. Same kind of learning style. You're going to have classroom and you're going to have integration. So it's going to be a well-educated process all the way through. Support, same thing. It's going to be excellent. So you're going to have all of that technical call-in support. They do have a very strong field presence as well, and they're very proud of that. So you're going to have a lot of elbow rubbing with Sirona folks. Scanner is one of the best two on the market. So you saw that when I went through the demonstration. CEREC Primescan is an excellent scanner. When you saw my design, you saw how easy the proposals come out, how little I actually need to use the tools. Their design software is fabulous. And ultimately, the intelligence that you have in the PlanMill, the advanced features that you have in the PlanMill, it is a wonderful milling system on top of that. So high marks all the way through on ease of use. When you look at speed, I kind of hinted at it earlier with that dual milling strategy, but your zirconia is going to be flying. So about 5 minutes to mill a zirconia restoration, anywhere from about 8 to 12, again, a lot of variables, but 8 to 12 minutes to get that Emax out of the mill. So it is a very quick mill that is going to help a very efficient CAD/CAM workflow. It is a closed architecture system. So to be able to go through that process and validate it and know that that product is going to end the way they want it, you do have to have all of the components along the way. So you can't just have a CEREC Primescan. You can't just have a CEREC Primemill. It is going to be the complete set all the way through to be able to get through a CEREC workflow. Large list of materials, kind of spoke about that earlier. Where Dentsply Sirona is going to make a large chunk of that, but you do get into the variety of Ivoclar, of the Katana blocks, and of others. So very large library of materials. So if you're looking for lots of different indications out of lots of different materials, they're going to have the largest portfolio out there. Price point is about $150,000, depending on promos. Scanner, software, mill, and oven. So that's going to be your entire product. Is about $150K. And lastly, when you kind of think about CEREC, synonymous with kind of the creator of CAD/CAM, right? So it is no wonder that they continue to lead the industry on the scanning side, on the software side, on the milling side, all the way through. They started first, and they've continued to kind of perfect that process all the way through. So that is going to kind of wrap up the comparative part between the two systems. So I kind of went through PlanMill, kind of went through Sirona and CEREC. I did want to kind of leave, and as we kind of close some of the evening, I did kind of want to leave some of the things, if you're going to get into milling, some of the things I think you ought to be thinking about. First of all, it's a team-driven process. Control is a thing that you want, but being able to delegate that control as well. So scanning, designing, finishing, all of those things can be delegated to your team. So I would make this a team effort. I would delegate some of those powers to your team members. That way you can go do doctor things while your team is supporting the CAD/CAM product on the side. Where applicable, and just as a best practice in general, when you talk digital impressioning, and then when you talk about designing a restoration. Of course, the software, whether in PlanMill or Sirona, is excellent. But where you can, try to use a pre-op scan and a pre-op design. If what was there worked, put it back in the mouth. And so I can take a scan prior to prepping the tooth. I can use that tooth as the foundation of my new restoration because it already fits the mouth. You can't always put perfect teeth in non-perfect mouths. And so if you're able to take what's there and what works, put it back in the mouth, you know that you have a lot of that form, fit, and function already built in. So that would be something I'd look at. Might be a little bit more case specific, depending on how you want to use it, but certainly something that can create a very efficient process all the way through. Retraction is going to be essential. One of the biggest learning curves of going from analog to digital dentistry is being able to identify and pick out margins. When you're just scanning and sending, you're largely letting the lab do that. Now that you're going to be doing it yourself, that burden of design is on you. So you really want to make sure retraction is of the utmost importance. Cord is still a very popular technique, but lasers have been on the rise, especially if you look at some of the little diodes out there. Denmet has a great diode laser out there where you're able to go through and trough all around the margin and really expose what's there so that you get a good crisp scan, which leads to a good margin marking, which leads to a great fitting crown. So keep retraction in mind and just the difference of what we used to do compared to what we are doing today with digital dentistry. Scheduling will probably be another hurdle. When you talk about CADCAM, you're combining what used to be 2 appointments into one. So plan on 90 or expect 90, really. That's to get in and out in an hour and a half. That's where we are today. Plan for 2 hours. Things often don't go the way we plan, and to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room there, plan on that 2-hour appointment. The timing of what you used to do compared to what you will do doesn't change. It's just a single appointment. So the challenge there becomes, how do you schedule for that? At some point, you got to flip a switch and change that schedule. So working through a lot of that will be challenging. But once you adopt that single visit dentistry, you'll see how much more efficient the practice actually operates. And then lastly, continue to learn. So CAD-CAM dentistry, and to knock out single visit crowns is fairly easy. It's actually shockingly easy with where we are today with scanning and design and mill and the intuitiveness built into that process. But don't stop learning. Continue to go out there and learn to do new things, how to do them better. Rub shoulders with all of those people that are like-minded and doing some of the same stuff, and continue to learn and improve that process. So next steps. If you have sat here and thought about this all while I've been just chatting away, what are the next things that you can do? 2 of the great ones would be to go get more exposure at the respective sites. So Chicago and going up and visiting PlanMeca's facility there, it is world-class. It is beautiful. Go get some hands-on time. Experience the CAD-CAM process. And be able to go through and see the PlanMeca story, see the PlanMeca system, get to walk through those processes yourself. And then on the Sirona side, DS World. If you haven't been to DS World, it is the event to go to. So I'd suggest spending some time out in Las Vegas and getting to experience the Sirona side of things, getting to see the scanners, the cone beams, the mills, the printers, and all of the people that have adopted a CAD-CAM workflow. Those would be the 2 best ways to get into all of this. And I'd suggest you take those steps or at least locally rub some shoulders with people that have adopted this technology and understand what's going on. That about wraps it up for me. So by the time you all see this, hopefully I am holding my new baby girl. But as you have questions, please reach out with those questions, either to myself or my colleagues all around the country so that we can answer your questions and help you decide if this is right for you and which system would be best. So thank you again. Glad you joined us for part 3 here. Look forward to speaking with you all again. Take care.
Thank you, Jeff, for your time and expertise this evening. As a reminder, if you would like to request a quote or schedule a personalized demo, you can do so by clicking on the Request a Quote box on your screen, which will allow you to schedule time with one of our amazing Fast Track advisors. We did record tonight's webinar and we'll email the recording out sometime in the next week. We also would appreciate your feedback via our survey that will pop up on your screen shortly. Thanks again, Jeff, and thank you all for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on future webinars.